They say the night hides more than shadows. It hides the truth.
Welcome to Mr. Haunting Whispers, where real crimes, true horrors, and restless spirits speak through the silence. Listen closely, because sometimes the whispers are real.
Fear doesn't always arrive suddenly. Sometimes it settles in quietly, like dust on forgotten furniture, like a thought you didn't invite but never sent away. Tonight's stories aren't about monsters in the dark. They're about the things that follow you out of it, the memories you tried to bury, the places you swore you'd never return to, the voices that sound exactly like your own, until they don't. Ask yourself something before we begin. What part of your life do you avoid thinking about the most? And more importantly, what would happen if it started thinking about you instead? These are 6 accounts from people who learned the same terrible truth. Some experiences don't end when you walk away. They don't fade. They don't forgive. They wait. This is Mr. Haunting Whispers TV, where stories breathe in the dark and the things that stay with you are never finished. Turn the volume just a little lower. Sit a little closer to the silence. This is episode 9, The Things That Stay With You. Before I start, I need to know something. Have you ever remembered something so clearly? The smell, the sound, the exact feeling in your chest, only to realize later that it couldn't possibly have happened to you? Because once that starts, it doesn't stop. My name is Marcus Vale. I'm 34 years old. At least, that's what my ID says. And until last year, I would have told you I knew exactly who I was. Now, I'm not so sure. It began with a memory that didn't belong to me. I was brushing my teeth one morning when a sudden image hit me so hard I had to grab the sink to steady myself. It wasn't a thought, it wasn't imagination, it was a memory, complete and vivid. I remembered standing ankle-deep in ocean water at dawn, cold waves curling around my feet, a woman laughing behind me. She had dark hair, wind-tangled, and she called my name. Only she didn't say Marcus, she said Evan. The grief that followed was immediate and crushing. My chest tightened like I'd lost someone I loved deeply. I stood there shaking, toothpaste dripping down my chin, mourning a life I had never lived. I checked my phone afterward, half expecting messages from someone I didn't recognize. Nothing. I told myself it was a dream fragment, stress. I'd been working long hours as an archivist at the city records office, long days surrounded by other people's lives, their documents, their photographs. That's important because memory leaves residue, and I think I soaked it up. The second memory came a week later. I was riding the subway when I suddenly remembered breaking my arm at age 7, falling from a tree, the snap of bone, the smell of antiseptic in a small town clinic. I almost laughed. I never broke my arm. But when I checked, there it was, a faint white scar along my forearm I had never noticed before. After that, the memories started coming faster, too fast. I remembered birthdays that weren't mine, parents I never had, a dog named Lenny who slept at the foot of my bed. I felt nostalgia for streets I'd never walked, grief for people who never existed in my life. And the worst part? They felt older than my real memories, more rooted, more solid. I began writing everything down, hoping to separate truth from intrusion, but the notebook didn't help. Sometimes I'd read entries I didn't remember writing, detailed emotional passages signed with names that weren't mine: Evan, Thomas, Rachel. One night, I dreamed I was standing in a long white room filled with mirrors. Each mirror showed a different version of me, older, younger, smiling, crying, all wearing expressions I recognized as mine. But when I moved, they didn't follow. they watched. When I woke up, I felt lighter, hollow, like something had been taken. I noticed it the next day while talking to my sister. She mentioned our childhood home, a yellow house with a creaky porch. I couldn't picture it. I knew logically that it existed, but the image was gone, replaced by a memory of a brick house near the ocean. That wasn't ours. I started forgetting things that mattered. My first girlfriend's face, the sound of my father's laugh, the exact moment my mother died. But in their place came other memories, fully formed, emotionally complete. I remembered holding someone's hand as they took their last breath. I remembered apologizing for something I couldn't forgive myself for. And sometimes, in quiet moments, I could feel someone else inside my head. Not a voice, a presence, like overlapping radio frequencies. I went to a neurologist, then a psychiatrist. MRIs came back clean. Cognitive tests showed no decline. They told me I was fine. But fine doesn't explain why I woke up one night to find my phone open on the table recording audio. I pressed play. What I heard made my stomach drop. It was my voice, talking calmly, telling a story about growing up in a coastal town, ending with the words, "Thank you for letting me stay." I live alone. No one else should have been there. That's when I realized the truth. The memories weren't random. They were leaving, passing through me, and whatever they belonged to was using me as a door. I work with records, births, deaths, people erased by time. What if memory doesn't disappear when someone is forgotten? What if it just looks for somewhere else to live? Lately, when I look at old photographs, sometimes I recognize faces I shouldn't, and sometimes this terrifies me. I don't recognize myself. So I want to ask you something. If your memories could be taken quietly, gently, and replaced with better ones, fuller ones, would you notice the moment you stopped being you? Or would you thank whatever moved in for making the emptiness feel less alone? I used to think sleep was the safest place. No expectations, no decisions, just darkness and rest. I was wrong. Before I tell you what happened to me, let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about it before you answer. When you dream, are you certain you're the only one there? My name is Hannah Morrell. I'm 29 years old, and I live alone in a third-floor apartment above a closed-down bakery. I've always been a light sleeper, the kind of person who wakes up when the radiator clicks or a car door slams 2 streets away. But until last winter, my dreams were my own. That's when I started waking up tired in a way sleep shouldn't cause. Not groggy, not exhausted, drained, like something had fed on me while I was unconscious. The first dream felt normal, almost comforting. I was standing in a long hallway with pale blue walls and soft carpet under my feet. The lights hummed faintly overhead. Doors lined both sides, stretching farther than I could see. I remember thinking, this feels familiar. I walked past the doors, brushing my fingers along the walls. Somewhere behind me, I heard footsteps, slow, careful. I turned, expecting to see someone I knew. Instead, there was a man standing at the far end of the hallway. He looked ordinary, dark hair, tired eyes, neutral clothes, the kind of face you'd forget the moment you looked away. He smiled at me, not threatening, not warm, relieved, like he'd finally found something he'd been searching for. I woke up before he reached me. My heart was racing, but otherwise I felt fine. I wrote it off as stress. I'd been working overtime at the hospital, night shifts in the imaging department, long hours staring at scans of other people's insides. That's probably why I didn't panic when the dream came back the next night. Same hallway, same doors. This time, the man was closer. "Do you live here?" he asked. His voice sounded off, like it wasn't fully formed, like a thought struggling to become sound. "No," I said. "Do you?" He hesitated. "I think I used to." That was the first moment I felt afraid, because the dream didn't feel like a dream anymore. The walls were solid, the air had weight. I could smell something faint and stale, old carpet, recycled air. And when I reached out and touched the wall, I felt it. texture. I woke up gasping, hands clenched around my blanket. The exhaustion started after that. Every morning it felt like I'd worked a full shift overnight. My muscles ached, my head throbbed, and I began to notice things missing from my waking memory. Small things at first. Passwords I'd used for years, the name of a nurse I'd worked beside every night, the reason I'd walked into a room. At the same time, new memories were appearing. I remembered a childhood bedroom with green walls. Mine were yellow. I remembered a mother who smoked on the back porch, humming softly. My mother never smoked. I tried to stop sleeping. I stayed up for almost 48 hours straight. Coffee, energy drinks, cold showers. But when I finally collapsed, the dream swallowed me instantly. This time, the hallway was crowded. Other people stood near the doors, dozens of them, men and women of different ages, all quiet, all watching me. And the man was waiting beside me now. "You came back," he said. "I didn't mean to," I told him. "This isn't real." He frowned, like I'd hurt his feelings. "It's real to us." I asked him who we were. He looked around the hallway, then leaned closer. "We're the ones who couldn't wake up." That's when I noticed something horrifying. None of the doors had handles on the inside. I started waking up with marks on my body. Not scratches, not bruises, impressions, like fingers pressing into my arms, like someone had been holding on to me too tightly. At work, I accidentally called a patient by the wrong name, a name I didn't recognize. But when I checked the chart later, that name didn't exist. It wasn't a patient. It was the man from the hallway. I know because I heard him whisper it the next time I dreamed. "Daniel," he said. "My name is Daniel." I asked him why he needed me. He didn't answer first. Then he said, "You're awake enough." That's when I realized the truth. These weren't dreams. They were places people went when they didn't fully die. Comas, brain injuries, sleep disorders, places where consciousness lingered with nowhere to go. And somehow, I was a doorway. Daniel started sleeping when I slept. I know that sounds impossible, but I could feel it. The moment he drifted off inside my head. The weight, the pull, like two bodies trying to occupy the same bed. Sometimes I'd wake up to sounds in my apartment that I hadn't made, breathing that wasn't mine. Once I heard someone whisper, "She's warm." I began locking my bedroom door. It didn't help. The dreams bled into reality. I'd see the hallway reflected in dark windows. I'd hear footsteps matching mine when I walked home. Doors in my apartment would appear in places they hadn't been before, just for a moment, then gone. Last week, I fell asleep on the couch. I dreamed I was standing in front of a door at the end of the hallway, the only one with a handle. Daniel stood behind me. "You don't need it anymore," he said gently. "Need what?" "Your body." I woke up screaming. Except I didn't wake up alone. There was an imprint beside me on the couch, warm, recent, like someone had just stood up. I haven't slept since, because now when I close my eyes, I don't fall asleep. I arrive, and the hallway is almost empty, which means something else is waking up. So tell me, and be honest with yourself, if someone shared your sleep, borrowed your dreams, and slowly learned to move when you couldn't, how would you know which one of you was supposed to wake up? If you're still listening, don't rush to turn this off. Sit with the quiet for a moment. Notice how the room feels now, not what you see, what you sense. Because silence isn't empty. It's where thoughts go when they don't belong to just one person anymore. Tonight, you heard 3 confessions, 3 voices that began alone and ended blurred, memories overlapping, dreams bleeding, bodies borrowed without force, minds worn thin by sharing. And maybe, just maybe, something in you recognized the pattern. Did any story linger longer than the others? Did a name echo that you don't remember learning? Did a thought arrive fully formed before you finished asking the question? That's how it starts. Not with screams, not with shadows at the door, but with comfort, with familiarity, with the relief of not having to carry yourself alone. They don't take you, they continue you. So tonight, when you close your eyes, pay attention to the moment before sleep, that thin space where your thoughts soften and something else feels ready to speak. If you hear a whisper that already knows your name, don't answer too quickly. And if you wake up tomorrow feeling clearer, calmer, more certain than ever before, ask yourself one last thing. Who decided that for you? You've been listening to Mr. Haunting Whispers TV, where stories don't end when the sound fades and the mind is never as private as it feels. Keep your lights low, your thoughts closer than usual, and your sense of self questioned. Because once a story learns how you think, it doesn't need to follow you. It's already inside. Until the next whisper, listen carefully. You may not be listening alone.
You've been listening to Mr. Haunting Whispers, where every truth leaves a scar. If the story unsettled you, good. That means you were listening. Subscribe and stay close to the dark, because the next whisper might be for you.